First and foremost, welcome to Hanovi Global Network Sunday Brief. And I'm going to be very brief on this one, but very clear and concise. Now, we all have seen what has happened in the last couple of days with the Trump-Zelensky meeting, which was supposed to be something that would have sealed a deal to make Ukraine and America show a sense of unity and in a very subtle way provide some sort of security guarantee for Ukraine. It is quite obvious. Anybody who understands how the world works will know that if a nation has economic vested interest in another nation, then obviously there will be some sort of military support and they will protect their interests. So by the very signing of a deal between Ukraine and the United States, it would have definitely been, without being said, some sort of security guarantee. So for all you media pundits, for all you politicians, for all you lawmakers and everybody else who think they are qualified to talk about this and to try to paint this as some sort of ambush by President Trump and Vice President Vance on Zelensky, it is utterly nonsense. It is utterly a misrepresentation, and it is blatantly, further blatantly, a lie and false. It is quite obvious, if one were to look at the progress of the meeting, you would see from the outset of this meeting, you would see Vice President Vance signaling, urging President Zelensky to not litigate, literally that was his word, not litigate this in front of the American media. That was a clear and direct signal that, hey, let us talk about all of this and let us iron it out behind closed doors. There we can probably have a shouting match and the world would not have seen what had taken place. But you political hacks, what you're doing is despicable. To try to paint this as some sort of ambush, it is wrong. It just shows that you do not have the best interest of Ukraine at heart. You do not have the best interest of America at heart. And you do not have the best interest of the world at heart. I could understand, it's quite obvious, that your sons and daughters are not perishing on the Ukraine-Russia front. So of course, you probably would have less connection to this. But compassion would dictate that you, in your hearts, would want to see some sort of ceasefire so that the bloodshed can discontinue. But some of you people have no compassion. You have no heart. Some of you have vested interest in military contracts. And of course, again, I know some of you may have other political jobs line up and you're speaking from that perspective. So I see, for example, I saw Susan Rice trying to chime in on this.
You're not being thankful. Donald Trump, to the leader of Ukraine. Joining our ongoing coverage, former United States Ambassador to the United Nations, former National Security Advisor to President Obama, Ambassador Susan Rice is here. Ambassador, your reaction.
Well, Nicole, obviously it's a very sad day and an embarrassment for the United States on the world stage. But let's step back and analyze what's happened here.
Well, slow down, cowgirl. What was a bad and sad and horrible days for America was an Obama administration that gave sheets, allegedly gave sheets to the Ukrainian people. Trump gave javelin. Obama gave sheets. That is what is alleged. And that is an administration that you allegedly was part of. So there you go. That is an embarrassment on the world stage. People are engaged in conflict and you're going to offer them sheets. Wow. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves.
I think there's no question that this was a setup.
Well, the question is who set who up? It is quite obvious that maybe, just maybe, Zelensky was looking for an off-ramp. And he figured that if there was a spat in the public domain, that definitely this would have been an end deal. This would have been a no deal. It was over. And he had opportunities to stop, to pause. A matter of fact, let's go back again. Vice President Vance specifically signaled, hey, let's not litigate this in the media. Let's talk about this in private. He said it from the outset. And he said it again during the meeting. So how's that? There's absolutely no reason that Susan Rice should actually even chime in on this, especially given the record of an administration of which she was part of that did not succeed in getting any safety and security guarantees in the direction of Ukraine. So she is in no position to take the moral high ground or to even say anything about this, unless, of course, it's just classical, psychological, authoritative suggestion because of her position. But there's nothing being added substantive by Susan Rice. A matter of fact, she was part of the Obama administration, and it was quite clear what the Trump administration and Trump himself said about what they did for Ukraine. The Obama administration gave sheets, and the Trump administration gave what? Real, tangible military hardware to defend themselves. So for her right now to try to come and score some political kudos or try to throw shade on Trump and Vance is just ludicrous. Then again, I have seen Cormac Smith comment on this, and it's just pretty interesting. I mean, this guy pretty much has lost all intellectual integrity by what he has said. I mean, I understand he probably was a paid advisor or something to Ukraine, foreign minister and stuff like that. So I understand his position. But if you cannot add intellectual honesty to the conversation, then you should not say anything because it destroys your intellectual credibility. And to blatantly misrepresent what happened at the White House is just totally wrong. I mean, he's another one who was on the, oh, this is a political ambush. This was a setup. This was an ambush of Zelensky, which it obviously was not. Because again, I'm going to reiterate, Vance from the outset of this said, look, let's not litigate this in front of the cameras, signaling, let's take this behind closed doors and we can hash it out.
This was an ambush.
Yeah.
You know, when you're the most powerful person in the world and you have somebody come to your office, and why on earth would you conduct such a delicate, critical meeting in the full glare of the world's media, including the Russian state news agency TASS were specifically allowed into that meeting?
Well, you asked a very pertinent question. If you are the most powerful person in the world, and you invite someone or a nation or a representative of a nation to the White House, which is at your home turf, and they are looking for assistance and help and security guarantees, guess what? Just maybe, there should be a lot more tact and diplomacy. And even if they are baited into something, even if there's a setup, guess what? They themselves would be wise and says, you know what? I'm not going to take the bait. But again, as I have said, I believe that Zelensky is a shrewd politician. So this just may have been a way for an off-ramp of this deal. Zelensky is way smarter than that. He would have not taken that bait if he truly believed that he wanted a deal. Obviously, Mr. Smith, I am starting to question your diplomatic capabilities.
You know, they are popping the champagne corks and the opening the vodka bottles all over Moscow.
You're so dramatic. I still believe Zelensky is a shrewd politician. So for some reason, it's quite possible that at the last minute, he might have gotten additional information Or he might have gotten some sort of connection or contacts with people who are willing to back him. Probably the Europeans. I mean, we know what was alleged with the Minsk agreements, and at the last minute, what it is alleged that Boris Johnson did. So there will be no surprises here. It is quite obvious here that there are people in this world who do not want to see an end to the Ukraine-Russian conflict. Whether this may be diplomatic, political, or some financial gain to be got, your guess is as good as mine. So I think for someone to pull out of a deal or to do things that would actually make it impossible to make a deal, it says to me that Zelensky probably was looking for off-ramp of this deal. So it's not surprisingly, as soon as that spat at the White House finished, he was off to Europe, and of course the British Prime Minister was warmly welcoming him into Downing Street. So that tells me that my suspicions were correct. Now let's take a look at what real men on the front lines who are battling every day have to say about this. Ukrainian men on the front line who understand what it means to be in the trenches. Let's hear what they have to say.
З їхньої точки зору, може, це і правильно. От. Так що. Але ми точно знаємо, що Сполучені Штати, якби виступали гарантом. І коли вони зараз дають задню і все таке, це, не зовсім зрозуміло людям, як так може бути. Тому, мало що можна сказати по цьому поводу. От. Одне я знаю точно, що без підтримки, буде важко. І не то, що важко, а зовсім важко.
Я вважаю, що потрібно їм йти на компроміси з обох сторін, тому що це важливо так само і для них, як і для нас. Тому що якщо не зупинити цю агресію в Україні, агресор піде вже до кордонів Європи. І там уже, я думаю, що Європа буде жаліти, що вони нам не допомагали. Тому що потрібно було зупинити тут, коли була можливість.
So there you have it. The soldier says that from the American point of view, they might be right. But one thing we know, that America has been a guarantor of Ukrainian security. And he implies that it's sad right now that they seem to be backing down. I would trust the words of soldiers on the front line any day before I trust anybody else's opinion. I mean, you're dead wrong when you have people like Roland Martin calling this an ambush. If you're on the right side with Roland Martin, you know you are wrong. I mean, here's a guy who engages, whose forte is American identity politics, race-baiting politics, divisive politics, and that is a gentleman you people are going to look to for some sort of political discourse on international politics and foreign relations? Someone who is obviously politically ignorant when it comes to these matters? Oh, please. Now, again, when you lose Lindsey Graham, of all people, what some people would describe as a war hawk, what some people would describe as a neocon, when you lose Lindsey Graham on this, you know you've got a problem. As for Roland Martin, and yeah, I know, he didn't say much in the video. He obviously stayed in his lane because he knew that this is definitely way above his head. The bottom line is this. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of nations pretending to have the interests of Ukraine at heart. But it is quite possible that they only have their interests at heart. President Trump said one thing that was very pertinent. And he said that he believed that Zelensky was gambling with the lives of millions. But I will go a little step further and say that Europe And the world is gambling with the lives of millions. And this, my friends, is extremely, extremely serious business and could have unimaginable, deadly consequences for humanity. I also believe that a lot of people, because of their personal jealousy and bitterness towards Trump, I think that they're afraid that he might succeed in securing some sort of semblance of peace in the Ukraine-Russia conflict and possibly might win a Nobel Peace Prize if he were to do it. And I think that is something that a lot of people would not like to see, only because it will have a Trump name attached to it. To wrap it up, it's quite obvious Europe has had the last 3 years to try to secure some sort of security guarantee for Ukraine, or to bring an end to this, or to deter Russian aggression, as they would put it. But obviously they failed. So just maybe, let's see what a President Trump can achieve in his administration. The Biden administration has had an opportunity. Europe has had an opportunity. They both have had an opportunity. Now it's time to try a different hand at it.